Oh, yeah, you
4.
did you watch Skin Deep?
I did. What am I supposed to do with lightsabers from now on? What the hell? Although Curious Me did see if those were available. There.
And they are.
Welcome to Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell.
What would you do if you had $1 million?
I'll tell you what I'd do, man. 2 chicks at the same time, man.
With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
And Josh Adams.
My wife, she is pain in my asshole. You know, the shitty thing about that is I came up with 9 different quotes that I was considering narrowing down to send you this week. And Beth and I are sitting there on Friday night oh, we've got to send them one of these 9. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it before the show on Sunday. Don't worry. Here we are.
It wouldn't have mattered. I was driving home from St. Louis.
Yeah.
It was waiting till next week either way. And then you never know with me. I might take a month once you send it to me.
I should just do it I should get it nice and compacted for you if I could learn how to edit audio, you know? Well, I'm not worthy.
Let's not overdo it. I'm not Magnolia. Before I get into, I guess, our plugs, I mentioned before the show that Corey, one of our Patreon supporters, had texted me, "Why do you hate Magnolia again?" And the main reason was the audience, the fans of the movie. I think they overdo that movie. But I've decided that from now on, I'm going to stop saying I don't like Tree of Life and I don't like Magnolia. I'm just going to say I kind of roll my eyes at the love for those. They're good movies for what they are. I just think people like them too much. That's all I'm going to say on those.
Way to hedge.
Well, because it's not that they're bad. They're not. I mean, it's like I said earlier, which probably nobody will hear. But it's like the bands Pearl Jam or Tool. They're good bands, but Jesus Christ, back off already. Let's not make them. Don't make me hate them. You know.
Because of Pearl Jam, I learned what the word merch was. I kept wondering, what the hell? What's a merch tent? And
you're a Star Wars fan, and you learned merch from Pearl Jam.
Listen, we call them figurines, collectibles, something, more sophisticated than just merch. Oh, that's insulting to Star Wars. See, did I fill the role well there? As an entitled Star Wars fan?
That's funny. Visit us at IHateCritics.net or on everyone'sacriticpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle there is CriticsPod. That's where you can find the trailers, the 89 movies, Sean's reviews, other interactions in the podcast. Patreon, IHateCritics.net/Patreon is the best way to help support the podcast. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. Subscribe where you can, rate and review where you can. It helps us get noticed among all the other podcasts. And then merch. IHateCritics.net, the podcast merch tab. Get our TeePublic site, and you can buy one of our 3 T-shirts. And I don't know, maybe someday we'll get a T-shirt press. They're not that expensive.
If you go online and get a shirt, you don't have to wait in a line. There's no one that you have to make stand in line for you while you go to a restaurant or anything like that. So it's nice. It's different than a band merch tent.
Are you talking about Pearl Jam?
Again, yes.
Or when the new toys come out and you wait in Walmart at midnight.
You know what, though? They're terrible. It's all just on pallets, and it's like a free-for-all. It's like Lord of the Flies in Walmart.
That is a good description of those people.
I never do that, by the way. I've never done that. feasted on it. I'm always like, well, this is stupid. I'm not going to get in there. But I have waited
really want
outside
that
for
toy.
midnight sales. Figurine, Bob.
Merch.
Profit. Anyway, are we going to talk about news at all this week?
We can. I sent you guys 2 trailers
Well, yeah,
really
there's
late
the
in the
trailers.
game.
So we did see the trailers.
Okay, thank you for seeing them. I meant to put them on there.
I mean, we
earlier,
mentioned
but-
last week we recorded during the Oscars because who gives a shit? But, I mean, Green Book won.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if A Time to Kill would have won that year. I don't know.
Driving Miss Daisy came back. Congratulations.
That was I saw that comparison a number of times this week, and of course that makes sense. I haven't seen Green Book, so I can't really comment on it. But
It's a Farrelly Brothers movie.
when I
one of
noticed
them.
that,
One of them.
I know.
yeah. Saturday Night Live had a thing about it last night as well. So
It was weird, though, when they did the whole, Marshall Ali with a giant dildo playing the piano. I didn't understand that part. How that gets into the Oscars, I don't know. It's a Farrelly Brothers joke.
oh, jeez.
I'm not that familiar with their work.
It's true. Well, I mean, Dumb and Dumber, right? Right,
But
that's
I
them.
saw it once when it first came out.
Something About Mary was a
Yeah.
classic on this
Yes,
show that I
I
was
like
forced
that
to
one.
watch. Shallow Hal is good.
Do you like Shallow Hal? If you said he had a tail, I'd get it more.
Sorry, I was making a deep cut for Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, I've seen that too.
And then Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper are apparently having an affair. That's what I hear. 'Cause their performance was so good.
The best thing that came out of that, though, are the multiple memes. And today I saw one that said me in the place of Lady Gaga, carbs, as Bradley Cooper. And I'm like, I too have often looked at carbs that same way. So I get it. They did a good job of pretending.
And then, what's his name? Won Best Actor. He lip synced. Bradley Cooper sang. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, indeed. He didn't deserve to win.
Well, it doesn't deserve to be an award show for art. All right, Dark Phoenix.
X-Men Dark Phoenix, the second trailer for this came out.
Bye, Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I guess so.
Finally got out of her deal.
Yeah, it's the fourth film in the First Class series. The last one was an absolute stinker. I fell asleep a little bit while watching that in the theater.
That was so messed up because I honestly thought that one was going to be it was so bad that was going to be it. Like, they can't make any more.
Agreed. I have no idea how they were able to get this in production, but this, along with the New Mutants project, which might be skipped off to Disney Plus, is what I have read this week. Dark Phoenix, the trailer itself gives away a major spoiler. If you're watching the trailer with us, nothing's going to surprise you. We're not giving away a spoiler that Mystique's character apparently dies in the trailer. Jennifer Lawrence by Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner. Now, at first I looked at that and I said, I'm not sure. Was she really dead? And I'm like, well, I guess you could construe that as a death. Sure.
Well, there's her casket is in the
Oh, yeah,
it's in
okay.
the trailer. So yeah,
I was having an
she's
old
dead.
boy moment.
But you could take the cynical route like we did or Sean did at least with the Avenger movies. She wanted out of those movies. You've heard her talk about it. So, all I see is boardroom discussions and how do we get her, how does she honor the deal yet get out of it at the same time? Let's kill her right away.
I don't know. I think if they say that they're going to do it right this time, but with this whole entire franchise, X-Men wise, the timeline being so discombobulated and character swaps and different actors playing the role and whatnot, it's very confusing to follow. And if this would be the culmination of all of the X-Men films that Fox has done over 19 years, it should be something we're really looking forward to. But unfortunately, it's not.
I've heard other rumors that say that they did this. They put the death of Mystique in this trailer because they're failing so miserably at getting attention for this movie. They throw everything at the wall. Tell them we're killing Jennifer Lawrence. Just to do whatever you got to do to get somebody to talk about this because no one's going to see this movie.
Not surprised. And they stuck it right in June, too. Gave it a nice, good opportunity to fail.
I mean, you think it will?
Yes, I do, actually.
Because I didn't think it was a horrible trailer, other than the fact that, I was watching it with a cynical point of view. But
Yeah.
It's not a terrible movie. It's really just the news surrounding the project and what Fox has done with this property over time, and knowing that it should have been released last year as opposed to coming up in June. And
I didn't know any of these things, so that played a role in my viewing of the trailer.
We're looking at that Fox and Disney merger and wondering, like, well, okay, I mean, what does this mean going forward? I don't have anything invested in it, knowing that the X-Men are going to return to Marvel.
I wonder if they're just trying to, just dump this franchise, this group of characters so they can recast the whole thing for a whole new Marvel thing.
Absolutely, they
And have them join the Avengers, except for they're all going to be dead.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit. You might be onto something there. Now, that I could see. With the playing around with different timelines and stuff like that. If they all died in this movie, okay, I could see that happening.
I meant the Avengers.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, Downey and I'd imagine Evans and Downey Jr. are probably done after.
Probably.
Yes.
I thought this trailer was really lazy. I write down everything from Mystique's makeup. You could tell that she did. I'm not sitting here for 6 hours. I don't care. Just get it on there as much as you need to make it look blue. Because I'm not sitting here for 6 hours. So that was lazy. And you look at different pictures of her over this. She's less and less makeup because she's I'm just not dealing with this anymore. Let's get this over with. But then you've got the same fucking slow motion scene of the fast guy. Running
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver, doing the same damn thing he's done in every fucking movie. It's just so lazy.
We thought it was cool at first when he did it in Days of Future Past. That scene was widely considered the best part of that movie. Yeah, now it seems a little perfunctory, but I don't know. Everyone, comic-wise, the Dark Phoenix saga is an important thing, but I don't see what's so cool about it compared to any other X-Men story.
And then there's The Kid.
Yeah, this is directed by Vincent D'Onofrio, a Western. And the reason why I wanted to watch this trailer and present it, mainly because of who's involved in it. Ethan Hawke, I really liked his performance so much in First Reformed, and hearing that he was going to be the marshal or the guy that's going after Billy the Kid, that sounded like an intriguing role for me, despite, this isn't Taylor Sheridan directing it or David Mackenzie or anybody that's done a recent modern Western or whatnot, but maybe D'Onofrio has an eye for it. Plus, there's Dane DeHaan in here playing Billy the Kid, and one last attempt for him to become a star. I don't think it's going to happen, but honestly, when I'm thinking of the character of Billy the Kid and different fictional interpretations of him, actually, yeah, that kind of fits. The only bad thing about this trailer for me is the music choice. The rockabilly country crap that I really hate. It just, it's an unfortunate choice in an otherwise solid trailer.
I'll be surprised if this gets a theatrical release.
Really?
Aha!
Not to knock the quality of it. It looks all right, but I just, as much as, First Reformed didn't get a theatrical release. Ethan Hawke is respected, but he's not, nobody looks at him and goes, box office. And I know Chris Pratt's in it, and that can be enough sometimes when you've got a guy like him. But him under that beard, barely recognizable.
Hardly in the
third
trailer.
Listed in the cast.
Fourth
listed in the cast.
He was the actually.
Yeah. I have a feeling this is probably not going to get a theatrical release.
Yeah, that was a bad move because basically putting in the and means he's barely in this movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it looks more like in that Magnificent Seven type of Western, kind of the fun, poppy Western. You throw the music in there too to, just kind of straight ahead rock music instead of, some sort of Western score. Makes me think they're going for just more of a fun movie. Mm-hmm. So maybe because of that, it could get a release, but I don't know.
I'm going for that's just the marketing, trying to get somebody that might not understand or know better in the audience. There's so many of them. I mean, look at the box office, but somebody that might not know better to the theater by giving them access to the film through that. I have a feeling just D'Onofrio, Hawk, those two, I don't know if they're going to make popcorn movies anymore, you know? Maybe they do, but I just have a feeling it'll be better. Was
D'Onofrio not in the Magnificent Seven?
Well, Chris Pratt was.
Right, they both were, weren't they?
But see, that's an Antoine Fuqua movie, right?
Right, but they're both there.
It's funny because I just saw a trailer for a new Ethan Hawke popcorn movie.
Well, yeah,
I think I'm going to sit this one out. I'm missing every pertinent news item.
I couldn't think of a movie, but he seems to be doing one for them, one for me, kind of every year.
Yeah. He's got a bank robbery movie comedy thing coming up with him and Mark Strong.
Oh,
but I mean, sometimes I don't know if this is popcorn enough, it might get a theatrical release.
I just don't see it.
You would think it would be already. If you're not going to do it, go to Netflix right away with it. But
I'm rooting for it. One last time for Dane DeHaan.
You never did watch the Metallica movie where he started. It's like the only
You're right,
actor
because
in
it's Metallica.
But he's like the star of it.
Right, I know, but it's Metallica. I'm not a huge
You don't have to
Metallica
be
guy.
Dane DeHaan.
Fair enough.
All right. Tyler Perry's Madea funeral.
Madea family funeral. Get it right. This is the last one, man. They're never going to do another Tyler Perry movie after another Madea movie after this.
Not Zombie Madea?
It's not her funeral, but Tyler Perry has stated that this will be the last one. He's lying, of course, but I mean, he said it's going to be the last one. So there's two movies. I'm going to describe you the plot to each of the two movies that are taking place here. Well, one of them has a plot, one of them doesn't. The plot is that a family is coming together to throw a surprise anniversary party for their parents. Three siblings and their respective relationships are coming to Atlanta, Georgia for this, and they've arrived at the house and they're setting up for the anniversary. Meanwhile, we find out that the eldest brother is sleeping with his youngest brother's soon-to-be wife. And they're doing so at a hotel nearby. And they happen to be in the room adjacent to the room where his father is having an affair with a woman. And his father happens to die during this particular sexual encounter. And he discovers his father's body. And, you know, obviously he sees then who his father was sleeping with was a family friend. And now he and her are going back to the house, and they're all going to be there to tell the mom that the husband has died, and there's going to have to be a funeral. And, of course, he's got a wife there waiting back at home that he's also been cheating on, obviously. And so there's a lot of secrets that are potentially going to come out now that this funeral is going to happen. Then you just cram into this, like just throw into a fucking blender this whole thing about Madea and just this series of wacky bullshit that she pulls, where you've just got Tyler Perry in four different characters just doing shtick, just random shtick in the midst of this family drama about a man who's just died that includes, I guess Tyler Perry believes that CPR is gay. He believes that performing CPR, a man performing CPR on another man, is clearly a homosexual act. He's got a great deal of gay panic going on. Madea is there when the body is found, and Brian, one of the character that Tyler Perry plays as himself, is attempting to give the man CPR mouth to mouth, and of course everybody's freaking out. I can't believe you're kissing a man because he's trying to save his life. I don't know, weird, but.
You don't know my relatives, man.
Anyway, the character of Hattie, who's been in each of the previous Madea movies, she performs CPR first, but she does so trying to give the man oral sex because he's died with an erection. So she attempts to she attempts to blow him while he's dying.
Isn't he a Christian? Isn't that what always happens in his movies, where he has some sort of god?
He talks about Jesus a lot, but no. Madea stopped being a religious character about 3 movies in, when she started talking about how she used to be a hoe and a stripper, and she used every kind of drug, and she was a gangsta, and she's OG, and all this just ridiculous nonsense that is just so horrifying. I kind of liked the Madea character a little bit when she was the moral center. When even if it was ridiculous looking at Tyler Perry in that dress, at least the character meant something. Then now it's just a vehicle for some of the. I mean, I know I'm not allowed to say this, but it's a minstrel show of horrific black stereotypes. And he's beloved, and I'm not allowed to say stuff like that, but that's the way it feels to me. It feels like this should be offensive, but I guess I'm not allowed to be offended by it because I'm not black, and that's fine. I think people should be offended by it. It's really awful, what he does, but he's got a whole 20-minute sequence that's just a long gag about he and his characters getting pulled over by a police officer who comes off immediately racist and threatening. And they're doing this whole thing about being shot by police, and they're playing it all for laughs. And I'm like, that's not funny, man. We've had multiple people in your community have been shot and killed by police. I don't know if this is a vehicle for shtick, but
not
they
to
do
mention
it.
that there's a lot of tension in the whole argument.
Yeah, and there's not one single good joke in the entire thing, not one.
It sounds like you have the bare bones and the structure of a really interesting drama. If he had just gone with that instead of injecting that character,
that's what he does. I mean, it's like he acquires one script and then applies Madea to it, and Madea and these other awful characters that he plays, who are just, I mean, Joe and the character of Joe and the character of they've got a new one this time that he's also playing himself that has no legs. They're the same character. They're the same character, but one of them's kind of bald. I don't know why he bothered doing these two characters. And the thing is, you could lift out all of the Madea stuff. You could take all of that out of this movie. It would affect the other plot in no way whatsoever. There's nothing that Madea brings to the plot other than a gag in which the corpse has died with an erection, and now that she's planning the funeral, Madea, and she's there to view the body, and they can't keep the casket shut because the corpse has a hard-on. It's so immense that it's keeping the casket open. Don't laugh at that.
No, if it was in a straight up comedy, then maybe that's something that would. What's that?
Technically is.
It's supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to fit at all based on what you're talking about.
Because the man is dead. They've paid him no respect whatsoever throughout the entire thing. But they didn't establish him as a comic character either. They've established him as a dramatic character who's just died with this huge family secret, and that's going to devastate this family, allegedly, and but that's all a vehicle for he was doing S&M. They make a joke of him being in an S&M thing. We never see that. We never see him in S&M gear at all in his corpse form when he's immediately died. I believe somebody just kind of improv'd that in the moment, saying that there was an S&M thing going on, and then they just kept it in the movie without any visual evidence of it. Because I guess he thinks S&M is inherently hilarious.
Scary. I don't know.
I think Tyler Perry's afraid of sex. I think he doesn't understand sex. I think he's got a lot of issues related to sex, and I'm not sure he understands it quite very well. And I think it scares him, every aspect of it, and that's why he makes awkward, unfunny jokes about it.
Has he, of all of the films that he's made that don't have Madea in them, I don't know if there are any, in fact, but is anything that he's directed and written actually really solid? That's what I'm wondering, because I wouldn't know where to start,
I'm one of the few people who liked Why Did I Get Married? There's some really interesting ideas in that movie that a better director could have really done something with. He's not a good director. All of his stuff, I think I honestly know. I understand that Madea could work on stage because that's where Madea began, is in church basements, being performed as a character for people in that stage sort of environment. And I can see where that works because she can improv and play off the crowd, and you know the characters can banter in a way that is kind of free form and come up with jokes on the fly. When you're doing that in a film form, it doesn't work because you don't have an audience energy to play off. You don't know what's working with the audience and what isn't. You can kind of assume what you think is working with the audience, but when you don't have an audience in front of you, how do you know what the vibe is? How do you know which jokes are working? How do you know you're not just hammering the same bad joke into an audience that doesn't care? And that's why the Madea character doesn't work in the environment in which he's trying to place her.
Well, I guess the $1 million question, though, is it an audience that doesn't care? Because they keep showing up for this guy.
And they were laughing, too, at some really awful things, so maybe I just don't get it. But
Well, I don't think it's a matter of not getting it. I think it's just, it goes back to my whole Adam Sandler argument, and Will Ferrell, for that matter, has been lately coming up. To me, it's hard to say, if the movie's bad because it's not funny, then it's just kind of like it's more not for you. Then it's not, like, I don't know. I hate saying it's bad because it's not funny, because it's so subjective in that area, because you can't really define what's funny. Everybody has a different sense of humor, and obviously this is not my sense of humor at all, but it clearly has an audience, 28 million or 27 million opening weekend, and this is like, the 15th movie they've done?
No, I think you've expressed, though, the way that it doesn't work for you is that it seems to work as a play in that particular format. And then when you transfer that to screen, there's something off about that. So as a film, I kind of get why it wouldn't work. And if it isn't your humor, then it's just doubling down on it.
If you're trained as a film watcher, and not somebody who's just going to watch Tyler Perry shtick, then it's hard to watch because it's not a movie. The first movie he did, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, was a fascinating mess because here's a movie about domestic abuse, about a woman who is being abused by her husband, and in the midst of this serious drama, they keep cutting away to this woman to this man in drag who's just dispensing the worst advice, and then she runs into the room with a chainsaw and just starts cutting up everything, literally, with a chainsaw, cutting things up. And for a moment, it is kind of cathartic, because you do want someone to step up on this woman's behalf and fight back, but at the same time, it's tonally a complete mess. Like, it totally throws off the movie. It's like throwing, Bugs Bunny into a Scorsese movie. Like, you're just not, don't do that.
Or Freddy Krueger into a Scorsese movie, as we'll get to later on.
Interesting. I want to know more about this because, okay. So basically, Madea is very scared about man kissing a man, but okay to dress in drag. All right, cool. That sums up Madea for me.
That's another aspect that he is not willing to examine.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I said this last week. If I'm the one marketing this movie, I put all the bad reviews on the poster, be like, look, critics hate it. You're going to love this movie. It's going for that audience, and I mean, I feel bad that you have to even sit through it. It seems like a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Potentially a waste of your time based on Linda Cook's review on Facebook. Greta.
Greta, it's with Isabelle Huppert and Chloe Grace Moretz. This is a thriller from Neil Jordan, who did The Crying Game. And the story goes that this elderly French woman is very lonely, and she leaves purses on the subway. Or she leaves her purse in the subway, and this nice girl, Frances, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, finds it and decides to return it to her, and takes pity on the woman by, kind of being friendly and becoming her friend, and they begin spending time together, and they're sharing like intimate secrets about, Isabelle Huppert is talking about a daughter that she has that she's not connected with anymore, and Chloe Grace Moretz is talking about having lost her mother, and there's the connection there. And then Chloe discovers that there are other bags like the one that she found, and they're all the same bag in look, and inside there's a different identification of this woman, Greta, in each of the bags. And this leads her, of course, okay, she's been doing this a lot. And she decides, I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to be around this woman anymore. I'm going to run for it and just kind of ghost her and see if I can leave her behind. Greta doesn't take this well, kind of takes it like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, starts following her around, showing up at work, and eventually just kind of builds from there. It's not a sexual thing. It's a mother-daughter situation where she desires having a daughter, and she does so to a degree where she has a kind of a psychological collapse. But this movie posits a situation where you're supposed to be afraid of Isabelle Huppert, who is lovely, but she's also a 100-pound 80-year-old French woman. Like, you're not, I'm sorry, I have a hard time being afraid of this woman. I'm sorry, I think that maybe the 23-year-old girl might be able to fight back against an 80-year-old French woman. I'm just saying.
How big are spiders?
I'm just saying that I can step on a spider. And I think
can't.
a 23-year-old woman could punch an old elderly woman who's trying to kill her in the face and probably get away.
Well, my wife has to step on the spiders. So.
That's fine, but if an 83-year-old French woman is threatening you, do you think you can maybe get away from her?
It's funny you should say that. 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody pulls up on our driveway and then comes and knocks on the door.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that your wife had posted that, but
Now, she wasn't 83, she was 23 and homeless and a drug addict.
Wow.
Still, it was fucked up.
That is fucked up, man.
I did not answer the door.
Right.
But, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it hanging there. Sorry, audience.
were you in fact behind the door in your best baseball stance, prepared to?
She does sensationalize the story. I walked around, made sure all the doors were locked, and I did have the bat just in case there was some guy with a gun or something like that.
Sure.
But no, I wasn't ready to. I was walking around to different windows trying to get a view. And in the process, she called the cops, and the cops came and took care of it. It was fine.
What he's saying is that his bat speed is so impressive that he can actually stop a bullet with the bat.
That is true. I can hit it so hard the head might have fallen off.
Yeah, I've seen that shit. He can hit it hard.
This is really the most minor flaw of this movie, because the final act is where it kind of flies off the rails into this sort of thing where it's not nearly goofy enough. Like, it should be. Like, the idea there is goofy, that this 80-something-year-old French woman who could keep this girl from fighting back and getting away from her. That's a goofy enough idea, but they don't go full camp with it. They don't go balls out goofy with it. And that's what they really needed to do in order to separate this from every other thriller that you've seen about a stalker kidnapping scenario. We've seen this movie 1,000 times before. Every time is the same shit. And to make it different, you got to make it fun somehow. And Neil Jordan just doesn't make this fun in any way. He just kind of does everything. Like, there's a character played by Stephen Ray who might as well be called Max Plot Device. Like, he's just the typical private detective who's going to show up, be killed, and you're done with him. He's completely ineffectual. He doesn't need to be here, but he's in every one of these movies.
Would it have been better if you didn't know who the killer or stalker was, and at the end you find out it's an old lady, kind of like Friday the 13th? Because then that way you're not wondering the whole time, well, why is she not afraid of her? Why is she afraid of her?
Oh, I think you've got a movie idea there. Where
Friday the 13th did it.
Yeah.
She thinks of somebody's...
Here you think it's this guy, and all of a sudden it's an old lady. Like, you never asked the question because you were wondering what's going on.
I just admitted that Friday the 13th is a more impressive idea than this film, so I don't know.
Yeah, but you did say idea, and you didn't say better movie.
Okay. That's true.
Weirdly enough, the movie that kind of strangely presages this one in Neil Jordan's career is Interview with the Vampire, which is kind of a similar idea where you've got this camp notion of what should be kind of this desire of Tom Cruise to be around Brad Pitt, but it turns out he's just pissed off that Brad Pitt won't be his son. And that's kind of like what's going on here. It's just this weird relationship where she's just angry that Chloe Grace Moretz won't be her daughter. Neither one of them is nearly as fun as they should be, because the Interview with the Vampire should be this really high camp, and Tom Cruise is kind of playing that, and everybody else is playing it straight, and Neil Jordan's directing it straight, and you're like, what are you doing with this? This is just go to town on this, man. Let it all go. You know.
That's right.
But I
want some more.
The director has to acknowledge that. I don't know. Sometimes you're just too proud to admit it's camp.
Yeah, I think he's just so he's such a respectable director and a respectable drama director that he can't let loose in that way. And I think that's why I think he's got to pick different movies then if he's not willing to really find a way to separate them from every other movie in the world.
No, it's sitting around 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, a little lower. The way Linda Cook made it sound, and fellow local film critic, was like she compared it to a Lifetime movie, and she hated it. It sounds like way more than you did.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of this movie.
Well, I know, but she was just ready to kill somebody over it. So, I mean, is it fair to say she hated it more?
I mean, I'm pretty well with her. I mean, I don't have as strong a feeling, I guess, because I think there's a lot more mundane that's wrong about it, but. The ending is pretty goofy in terms of how lame,
but not the right kind of goofy.
Right? Yeah, it was lame in that she can't. I mean, I don't want to give everything away, but she should be able to escape this very easily, and she doesn't.
Edward Norton pops up.
If only. Now that's the kind of camp this movie needed.
Everybody's like, why Edward Norton? Anyway.
I do have one more movie if you want it.
Oh, go for it.
There's a documentary that's available on demand right now. And Josh, have you seen Flash Gordon?
No, but I'm aware of it because of the movie Ted. So,
Bob, have you seen Flash Gordon?
I'm in the same boat as Josh.
Well, Flash Gordon, the 1980 movie from producer Dino De Laurentiis, starring Sam Jones, and there's now a documentary about the making of that movie and what happened after, and where the lives of Sam Jones and the rest of the cast went. It's called Life After Flash. And it's really a fascinating movie. The weird thing about it is that they're trying to kind of revise history into treating Flash Gordon as if this was kind of a lost classic. And I don't buy that for a second because I've seen this movie and I don't see it in any way as a lost classic. This is one of the legendary bad movies that people basically only remember the soundtrack for.
Right. Is there, just before you go too much further, I mean, I know we're going to get to our next week's classic, but could we possibly maybe make this it?
But
to go along with Captain
Flash
Marvel?
That's not a bad idea.
If it's available.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, we can. I mean, if you want to find out if it's available.
That sounds fun. Anyway, continue while I do.
But yeah, Flash Gordon, they tell the story of how it was made, and they also tell a lot of really fun behind-the-scenes stories, and there's a lot of really funny, interesting people, and that's the key to a modern documentary, making it different, making it interesting, is that if you have to do the talking head thing, basically, when you're doing a documentary these days, and the key is having good talking heads, and they've got some really great talking heads in this movie. Sam Jones has had such a fascinating life. He was fired from Flash Gordon before they even finished it. They finished it with a stand-in and a voiceover guy to do the looping, and they looped his entire performance, which kind of hurt the whole thing. Not that I don't know how great his original performance was, but they had to loop the whole thing, and it made him kind of look silly. But he went on from there to be kind of, Dino De Laurentiis basically blackballed him from Hollywood. Like, he couldn't get another gig after that. And so he became a bodyguard. He was working in South America protecting like dignitaries from terrorists. Like, he was a legit badass, but he was also a guy who was like kind of into alcohol and some drugs and kind of lost himself and lost a couple of marriages, and then he found Jesus and actually has put his life back together in a very interesting way, and he's become a very healthy, very positive guy. And I really enjoyed him, but there's a lot of really great people who are very enjoyable in this movie, and there's some really wonderful stories told. Again, I don't buy that this is some lost classic. There's some revisionist history going on here, treating this like this is one of the great midnight movies of all time, or if it's a cult classic. It's not. There are no revivals of Flash Gordon that I'm aware of. But yeah, I love this documentary. It's really great.
Sam Jones is a guy that kind of resembles another actor named Alex Rocco. You may know the name, you may not know the name, but he was in an '89 movie that we'll talk about in a bit. And when I saw that guy on screen this past weekend, I thought, oh, is that Flash Gordon guy? And I had to, look up the filmography. I'm like, oh, no, it's not the same guy. That just has a lot of the same facial features and whatnot and blonde hair and everything. I was confused as a kid about Flash Gordon, thinking, wait, you've got the Flash, and then you've got Flash Gordon, thinking that movies and comics were all pretty much interlinked, and my dad had to explain to me, no.
I can't tell you the number of years that I thought Flash's last name was Gordon.
Excellent.
Well, it is available, however. It's like $9. So if we can't find a way to all get together and watch it, we may not be able to.
I can't afford to pay $9.
So if we can, if we find time next week to watch it, we'll do it. If not, we won't. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on the documentary?
Absolutely watch it. It's available on demand now, and it's really fun and really funny and really terrific story. And also, interestingly enough, this director is I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's actually making this kind of life after a series in a way of movies, because she's now doing Life After Flight of the Navigator.
No.
Yeah.
With the kid?
With the kid.
Is she responsible for the Life After Porn movies on
I don't
Netflix?
think
no,
so.
It's not Life. It's just After Porn.
Yeah, I don't think
After
she's involved
Porn
in that.
ends. Never mind.
I think this is her first.
I've never
well-known-
actually watched those. I've never.
Oh,
watched
well, it's very interesting.
But yeah, no, this is this one and Life After Flight of the Navigator, which is coming soon.
I know a little bit of the history of that, so that sounds very interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized Undisputed Classic.
Cape Fear is a classic. Which one doesn't really matter. I watched one of them. I think I've seen the other one. I think Sean watched both of them. I don't know what you watched, Josh.
I didn't watch either, but I remember the 1991 very well.
And that's where I remember 91 very well, so I went and watched the original today, actually. That's why I had to move us back half an hour. Anyway, where do you want to start, Sean?
I'll start with 1963, I think it was, Cape Fear, with Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck. The far superior film, in my opinion.
Yes.
Robert Mitchum is Max Cady. He's just fresh out of jail. He's arrived in the hometown of Sam, I can't remember his last name, but Gregory Peck's character, Sam, and he's coming after his family because Sam is the one who helped put him away. Sam caught him in the midst of a rape and called the police and held him there until the police arrived and he was arrested. And now he's come back for revenge and he's going to stalk his family. But Max has gotten very smart while in prison. He's studied the law and now he knows little tricks to pull to keep himself one step ahead of the law. He can, he's going up and standing outside of his property, but he's not on his property. He's going up to him in bars, but he's not, threatening him. He's just sort of there wherever Gregory Peck's character is. He just sort of happens to be there, and he's menacing looking. And Robert Mitchum is such an asshole. Like, he's just the biggest asshole on the planet. He makes me so uncomfortable in this movie because I keep imagining, like, I could see him everywhere in my nightmares. Like, that performance is fantastic. He is amazing. And when you put him up against Gregory Peck, who's already, this paragon of virtue going into this, and the character is, Gregory Peck doesn't play characters with flaws. It would seem at this period in his career.
Just plays good lawyers, right?
Exactly. And so he's just a guy who's defending his family from this psychopath, and that's that's a really wonderful, good and evil dynamic, and it really works. And then you got Martin Balsam, who's his friend and cop, the head cop in town, and completely on his side, completely willing to help him and go out of his way to try and get Mitchum's character out of town. And the way Mitchum is just constantly one step ahead of them makes me so uncomfortable throughout the entire movie. I really loved it. I really love the original. It's so very good, and really the original just exposes all of the flaws of the Scorsese version.
Which is funny because I like the Scorsese version, and I remember it. And I've seen the Simpsons episode a million times.
That is fantastic.
And watching this today, you're right. I'm playing that one in my head while I'm watching this one, and they're just so different. This one I think benefits from being older, similar to the way the original Star is Born. I think works better than all of them except for the newest one because of when it came out. I think that plays a big role here, but at the same time, the Robert Mitchum character is so much more. I mean, De Niro's character might as well be Freddy Krueger,
right?
And here, it's about as real as it gets, and it is so much more unsettling because of that. In a way, the Scorsese one is kind of, I guess, over the top. I don't even want to call it fun, but over the top, enjoyable in terms of the watchability. But this one is just way more, just messed up and more real and scarier, to be quite honest.
I honestly, watching it, and I'm just thinking, Robert Mitchum is just laughing at what Robert De Niro did in this movie, because, De Niro was, working out in the gym 5 hours a day to get in shape for this movie, and he, flattened his teeth, paid $10,000 to, flatten his teeth for it for some reason, even though that plays hardly...
And the funny point, in the movie, they talk about the character doing that.
Yeah.
Robert Mitchum. And it was just like that Saturday Night Live sketch where Sean Penn's playing De Niro. I had 3 vertebrae removed.
Meanwhile, Robert Mitchum, all he does, and he doesn't do anything to get in shape. He is not concerned the least bit about being in shape. His character is slamming back some drinks. He's just menacing just in appearance. He doesn't need to do anything of what De Niro's character is doing to be overly menacing. Right. All the work that De Niro puts into it, Mitchum just laughs at it. Just completely makes it look ridiculous.
2 totally different tones literally because of that alone. Mitchum's ripped, don't get me wrong. He's buff and he's in shape when he's got his shirt off. It's pretty impressive looking. But it really is. It's 2 totally different movies. That
he's so relaxed, whereas De Niro's kind of this live wire thing going on. Mitchum is just so terrifyingly relaxed.
Which I guess we can get to the De Niro one. I think it works. It just works in a different way, but I prefer the original. If it's standalone, I appreciate the De Niro one. It's kind of fun. It's kind of this over the top killer, and The Simpsons does help it out a lot. But having seen the old one, the original, it's so far superior that I know it's not fair to compare 2 movies, but they are. One is a remake, but it just it's more cartoony.
Oh, absolutely. That ending had me cackling at how just nutso it gets when he gets his. She splashes him with hot water, and he loses half his hair and his face, and he becomes basically Freddy Krueger. Yeah, I just thought the ending is so goofy. I just couldn't help but laugh at the final moments of De Niro in that movie.
I guess that's what it is. That probably kept me from wanting to own it. The movie affected me, and if I like a movie that much, I'll try and add it to my personal collection. Now, in this particular case, Cape Fear is not one that I own, but I remember that performance.
Right.
It was in a string of De Niro stuff that I was trying to catch up with. So there was Goodfellas and Cape Fear kind of back to back. And I know that The Deer Hunter was involved as well. Now, you guys know how I feel about Goodfellas. Like, it's a good movie and whatnot, but he's kind of an ass, in that movie. And in this one, I watched that after Goodfellas. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it about De Niro? I know that he's one of the greatest actors that ever lived. Is he so good? Is that why he's bothering me? That over-the-top performance, it bugged me. Like, the movie's just rubbing on all of my moral, nerves. Like, being able to get away with things when there's a clear and present danger right in front of you because he's following the law. Okay, that's bullshit. Like, it happens all the time, right? But it's bullshit. And so the movie did frustrate me. You said uncomfortable. I would say yes, to the point of frustration. And I liked it because it made me uncomfortable. And I was, at the time in college, thinking to myself, boy, this is probably master filmmaking. I should just, shut up because it's Scorsese, right? Not necessarily. I wish that I would have gotten a chance to see the original, because then we would have maybe seen a nuanced villain. Somebody that's using their mental skills as opposed to being a brawny physical monster. For as effective as it was at the time, I think I would have preferred that De Niro scaled it back a little bit, because that is actually more realistic, more scary.
I think you and I are probably on the same lane for that, because I kind of had the same feeling, other than the fact that I was more of a probably De Niro fan, but I was going through The Deer Hunter, Godfather, Goodfellas, all that stuff. Godfather 2, I mean. And this was, it kind of was like, really? This is kind of different than those. But watching the original today, and I mean, it really, I remember the 91 version so clearly that it was literally playing in my head, in my mind, while I'm watching this movie, and it is just, it's its own, they're just two totally different animals. And in a way, I can appreciate that Scorsese didn't do, what Gus Van Sant did to Psycho. He just went for a different, route altogether. But at the same time, it's just like, he could just do something else. I mean...
Are these movies trying to say anything? That was something that I remember trying to figure out in this week. Like, does Max Cady represent something in 1962? Is Cape Fear in versus 91? Those particular periods of time, the suburban boogeyman or the wasp boogeyman, so to speak.
If I had to guess, what Scorsese was saying was, all right, you see how cool this movie is? Go check out the original. But he's such a... I mean, I say that as a joke, but he is such a fan of movies that I do think there might have been something to him being like, I want people to see, another... I want people to go back and watch these movies. And I think that might have played a role.
More of an homage feature.
I think also it's not just me finding I like De Niro in some aspects in this movie. It's just I think there's some structural issues. Like, I don't think Nick Nolte is very good in this movie.
Right.
Jessica Lange is kind of flying off the rails a couple times here and there. Juliette Lewis is also playing. They're all kind of playing strange in a way that I didn't quite understand. But the structurally, like, I thought it was so much more interesting. This movie, the original, begins with the scene of Mitchum walking up and taking Gregory Peck's keys. That's where it starts. And this movie has De Niro getting out of jail. It has him, they have to show him with the working out and the tattoos and all this stuff and all that buildup. And it's like, Mitchum just walks in and there it is. The movie starts.
Yeah.
And I kind of think structurally that was much smarter. It just cut to the chase so much quicker.
No, I agree completely. And for 1963, 64, it's so much more daring than, what the other one was in 91. I mean, some of the things they do and say, I mean, maybe 64 was, they were starting to get more risque with their movies, but there's some controversial topics in here. I mean, there's a woman with, like, a bruised face, and it's pretty intense, and the Juliette Lewis, like, again, it's so over the top in the Scorsese version that it's creepy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Going after a kid's creepy no matter what. But for whatever reason, the way they did it wasn't as creepy as the way they do it in this movie. She seems so much more innocent. There's so much more. Everybody's not playing it up a notch. They're playing it straight, and it really does make it. It's weird for me to say that this would be scarier, but it's so much tremendously scarier and creepier and darker that it's. I don't know.
The real monster versus the theoretical monster.
Right, and there's at no point are you rolling your eyes. I mean, other than maybe the Gregory Peck punches, but that has to do with. But at the same time, it's 63.
Yeah, he's doing stage fighting. Yeah.
So, but that's the only thing that you're kind of rolling your eyes at. It is even the way he gets away with it because he understands the law is so much more real in this version than the Scorsese version. And I don't know. I think I know it's hard with this podcast to get a chance to go back and watch movies, but I think you will enjoy this one if you ever get the chance.
I do like Gregory Peck enough, and I haven't seen enough of Robert Mitchum for that matter. Everything that he's been in, it's not an area we've really
I kept
explored.
thinking Scrooge the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Well, we need to get to Night of the Hunter, because that's the one that kind of people mix up with Cape Fear. Like, that's the one where he's got love and hate tattooed on his hands. That's where he was originated that.
And that, again, like I said, Scorsese is so... I'm sure he did that on purpose. But he's such a fan of movies that I really think he was doing more of a tribute and trying to make a more watchable, modern day movie to make you go back and watch classics. Anything else on Cape Fear?
Like I said, I don't hate the 91 version. I just think it's far more broad, and then when you watch the original, it just sort of exposes just how broad it is.
Yeah, I do feel like it's almost unfair, but at the same time, you did remake it, so
yeah.
you're gonna
have to live with the comparison.
But luckily for them, a lot of people don't go back and watch the originals. But yeah, definitely, if you get a chance to see the original Cape Fear, please do so.
Since this is Aunt Bethany's 80th Christmas, I think she should lead us in the saying of grace.
What, dear? Grace! Grace! She passed away 30 years ago.
All right, Josh, you got the next half an hour.
Not necessarily. I'll blow through some that I didn't get a chance to see.
7 movies this week.
In relation to Scorsese, New York Stories came out 30 years ago. It's primarily by the way that it was marketed and the way that I see it now in the aftermarket, a Woody Allen project. But as I understand, it's 3 separate stories. Woody Allen directed one, Francis Ford Coppola did one, and Scorsese did the third. I haven't seen it myself, but perhaps one of you have. Yeah, it was the onus for our classic this week.
No, actually.
Okay, well, in that case, it's another Woody Allen one that I'll eventually want to get to because I am very interested in him as a filmmaker. Farewell to the King stars Nick Nolte, and it's not necessarily what you would think based on the title and the fact that it's got Nick Nolte in it. I don't have the explanation of it in front of me, but it has nothing to do with medieval stuff. It has something to do with like a family drama or whatnot. So if anyone has seen Farewell to the King, please let us know. All right. So
it's a World War II movie.
Okay, there you have it. I'm reading something else.
He's got long hair in it.
Does he play a general?
He just plays a soldier.
A soldier, okay. Another one called Heart of Midnight. It has Jennifer Jason Leigh in it. I don't have any idea what that's about. Brenda Vaccaro's in it as well, but it only made $113,000, so nothing really to talk about there. A movie called Out Cold, which has John Lithgow and Terry Garr in it. It's directed by Michael Apted, I think, if I saw that correctly. But it's
Malcolm Mowbray.
Okay. It is not the comedy that you would perhaps expect. It's actually got a dramatic explanation to it. And when I look at Terry Garr and John Lithgow, I'm actually hoping that there's a wonderful comedy there. I was looking forward to looking up the synopsis for this, hoping that it was another witty, brisk comedy that I could sit through, but unfortunately it's not. I can imagine people being confused with that. Out Cold doesn't really sound like... I mean, they actually made a movie called Out Cold in the 90s. It's a really shitty movie.
Really shitty skiing comedy,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
It is funny, though.
That's the first thing I thought of.
You got Scorsese with the New York Stories, Nick Nolte with Farewell to the King, and in this one they hire a private investigator. So we have a lot that gets us to Cape Fear this week, along with Greta.
Good point. But the ones that I did actually I have seen before or did get to this week, we'll start with Lean On Me. It's not currently available to stream through Prime or Netflix or Hulu. It could very well be on YouTube, goddammit, Pop. And it's a Warner Brothers movie, so I think it's actually very likely that it's on YouTube for $1.99. But I've seen Lean On Me enough times that I didn't need to revisit it this week. Morgan Freeman plays, this is based on a true story, as I remember seeing it. He plays a guy that gets in charge of an inner city school as principal and takes drastic measures to change it all around. Now, this is in the same vein as a Stand and Deliver and later Dangerous Minds and any other kind of inner city story. Yes, there's one with Denzel Washington, for that matter, where he's a teacher trying to make a difference from 1985, 86 as well. But in this particular one, I remember watching this as a teenager and thinking, there are schools like that? I mean, school was always like a place of, sanctity or whatnot, that you would never disrespect somebody, blah, 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 blah. And then I grew up a little bit and I saw stuff like this.
This is white privilege.
Well, I mean, I obviously grew up in a small town for sure, and had very little access to even our local quote-unquote cities until I was a teenager and working or playing, sports against the in-town kids or whatnot. But this is really, down and dirty inner city stuff that you really have to have somebody like him take control. What I remember taking away from this is at some point, to keep the drug dealers out, this principal chained the doors and kept people out. And that was a major, major problem. And okay, obviously that's a problem, but maybe that works in the 80s. But I can't imagine a scenario where someone doing that today would not have to answer for those in a criminal fashion.
Well, now they just lock the doors and you have to buzz yourself in.
And multiple officers, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe, this was prior to that kind of
They still had fire codes in 89, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He was violating those, but yeah.
I do remember this being a reasonably effective movie for me, because he does, despite all of the standard, everything's going to be better now type of things, he does seem to reach some students, and I like Morgan Freeman's performance here. It's over the top compared to other performances of his,
right?
But you can see what you like out of Morgan Freeman with this.
There are aspects of it that I really like. I like portions of his performance. I like that he does bring a little bit of nuance to the character. At the same time, I hated the way the parents were portrayed at times. There's some of them, when they're treating some of the parents just like these absolute villains who want to, let the drug dealers back in there. I just didn't buy into that at all. There's one parent in particular who's just so strident opposed to him that she was just she was an unreasonable caricature as opposed to a character.
I'm seeing that actress's face too, and I know who it is. I just can't think of her name. This is directed by John Avildsen,
hell of a director
of Rocky and Karate Kid. I thought I'd at least mention that. So maybe that's why I liked it, because it shares some similarities with those two. Championing the little guy, that kind of thing.
Let's not reduce Rocky to Karate Kid, please.
I love both movies in the same vein, whether or not they're both
they play
the same
different
quality.
Veins.
Didn't Stallone really direct Rocky?
More or less, yeah.
I forgot that I was treading on sacred ground.
Flick chart, Rocky or Karate Kid?
Rocky. But barely.
Well, I know you. But barely. Fuck you.
Yeah. I really do love Karate Kid, though. Because of the show. Rewatching it in 2014. But anyways, let me get off of this because I don't have any more ammo for Bob.
Wait, was it on YouTube?
Well, it was $4, not $1.99.
Now I managed to piss off Bob. Now I'm going to piss my wife off. Dream a little dream.
There's no way you're going to love this movie. I don't care what she says.
Well, I can understand from her point of view liking this as a youngster, liking the idea, the concept of it, whatever the case may be, okay? She's into this type of high concept idea, and I've been on board for pretty much everything she's recommended to me from her youth. Just like, as exuberant as I am to her about some things. We ordered the DVD because why wouldn't we, right? It's just $4 more than streaming, and if she likes it that much, we should get it. Okay, so we start watching it. 35 minutes into the movie, she's asleep, and I'm left to
putting
finish.
her on blast.
Well, no, if it was 11 o'clock, I would understand, but it was like 8:30. So my wife,
and he doubles
pain in my asshole. No, I do feel for her, but it's kind of like if I fell asleep during Star Wars or something.
You just compared Dreaming a Little Dream to Star Wars.
In terms of effervescence of recommendation, God damn it. But about the movie, okay? It stars Corey Feldman, Jason Robards. Those are the two main characters. Piper Laurie is also in the film. Corey Haim is in the film. And Meredith Salinger, the wife of Patton Oswalt now, and she's been involved in a lot of other projects too. That face immediately was recognizable to me. And the concept is that Jason Robards is an eccentric old man who's into finding out what happens on the dream state. And in a particular moment where he gets his wife, to do it with him finally, it seems strange. At that same moment, Corey Feldman and Meredith Salinger crash on the path of Jason Robards' house or something like that. And so there's a mind swap. Okay, I don't know the specifics of how this works, but I'm just going with it, okay? It's an 80s film that's got a lot of 80s music in it. Mickey Thomas from Starship even makes an appearance as a teacher and sings the song Dream a Little Dream is a remake, and it's not very good, and I love Starship. This movie is
You and
really...
I are the only two people who knew Mickey Thomas as the singer of Starship.
Well, it was our wedding song, for Christ's sake. I do love Starship. Okay. It's not a very good movie.
No.
I can't say that I hate it, but there's a problem with the direction of this film. The director's name is Mark Rocco, who may or may not be related to Alex Rocco, the actor I was speaking of, who plays Corey Feldman's father. Victoria Jackson, for some reason, plays his mother. There's a wide age gap there. I don't know how that works, but there's just a problem with the editing. Robards and Feldman will be exchanging information in the dream state, which is the interesting part of the movie. What's going on? We're in somebody's dream. And in fact, Corey Feldman at some point mentions, what do you think you're going to see? Freddy Krueger? Okay. That was the reference from earlier. But then it quick cuts to a scene of Meredith Salinger dancing for some reason, and then it goes to another cut of the next day in high school. It's very discombobulated. Even a long dance sequence where Corey Feldman apparently took lessons from Michael Jackson, of all people, to do a routine. It lasts about... I don't know, but he looks like Michael Jackson dressed-wise in a lot of this film. I don't know why that scene is in the film other than to supposedly impress this girl.
No, I think it's just because Corey Feldman could do that.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm pretty sure there was just an ego indulgence more than anything.
The film has tone problems because at some point it's a comedy, at some point it's a romance, right? But then all of a sudden at the end you've got this character who's pulling a gun on all of his friends and it looks like he's about to shoot him. The film is a mess.
Yeah.
It has too much music in it. I'm not going to go the Moana route here and say there are one too many songs, but honestly it's one right after the other and they play the theme song 3 different times throughout the movie. I get it. Dream a Little Dream is a classic song. Didn't need to become a movie. The concept is very interesting. I get why she would like that. But in revisiting it, however long after she last saw it, she fell asleep. That's all I got. Have you guys seen this movie?
Do you feel like you've won?
No. what this is actually is this is how I love her by being honest. Like, we've already had this discussion about how I didn't like the movie and her falling asleep and whatnot. I'm just being honest about how I feel, which is the best thing that I could possibly do for it.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, I fell asleep watching Bull Durham last night with my wife watching it, but it was also midnight.
Yeah, I think my hyperbole is at a high there when I say, like, well, if I was watching Star Wars and fell asleep, obviously you could fall asleep watching anything, but I thought that maybe we would have a collective experience.
What time did you start watching it?
7:40, something like that.
No excuses.
Depends. I mean, the poor woman has to drive,
No, I'm
each
just
day
kidding.
a lot. So
I'm just kidding. It is funny when you were describing it as, saying how much you loved it last week, and I was like, he must really love her. He's really jumping out on a limb here. Because there's no way he's going to like this movie that much. You might like it a little bit, but there's no way you're going to.
It's bad.
80s Feldman stuff. Like, I thought there was a solid chance it would at least exceed, like, License to Drive. But it does not.
Okay, if you would have said that last week, I'd have been like, all right, that makes more sense. If that was the bar you were setting, I would have got. Yeah, the Coreys, I mean, they might as well call all theirs tonally deaf or whatever any movie they're in.
Yeah, it just, man, it hits a lot of wrong notes. But speaking of hitting wrong notes, Skin Deep.
Oh, fuck you.
No, listen, if you're 12, 13 years old and you're watching late night HBO, Skin Deep is the movie for you, okay? There's a great deal of nudity in the film, a great deal of adult situations, and the shallowest motherfucker I have ever seen in the history of film. I'm sorry for getting the big F-bombs out, but okay. John Ritter plays a guy. He's a writer. He's the biggest asshole I've ever witnessed on screen before. Now, a lot of people love John Ritter. That's fine. I thought Three's Company was abhorrent when I was a kid. I never understood the draw to him. I liked him when he was in Scrubs. That was it. Okay? And here he's in a Blake Edwards film. And Blake Edwards is a guy that seems to make movies for really hairy guys that women can fawn over and dudes can kind of relate to. There's a Ted Danson movie from last year with Blake Edwards directing it, and he was always making these movies that were rated R and specific to adults and had scantily clad women in the marketing. Okay.
So?
What I'm trying to do is set up the idea of how shallow this film is. He is caught cheating on his wife in the first 3 minutes of the movie, as a Neville brother is playing over the film's opening credits. Okay, Denise Crosby is about to blow him away, but then she forgets about that. The woman that he was cheating with leaves the house. We find out that Denise Crosby isn't even his wife. She's the mistress that's mad about the other mistress. And his wife eventually comes home and sees that the other mistress is there after the other one runs out of the house. So he's a mess, okay? He's a total mess. But does he ever have to, like, own up to his problems in this movie? Not a single time, okay? You can definitely have the discussion that at the end he realizes the error of his ways, but it's the easiest get off of all time that I've ever seen in a movie. He spends 5 minutes realizing, okay, they have it as an allegory to alcoholism. Psychiatrist says the first step to not becoming an alcoholic, or to stopping being an alcoholic, is to stop drinking. Okay, so he all of a sudden, this writer, this next great American writer, according to the movie, can't figure out that the first thing that he needs to do is stop philandering. He has a massive, realization. He stops doing this, and then all of a sudden he gets his ex-wife back. After he goes through the movie plowing half of Los Angeles, okay, with glow-in-the-dark condoms. Thank you for that, by the way, Sean. In one of the most disturbing Star Wars allegories I've ever seen. There are dueling wands here, and I mean it. Not even wonderful Vincent Gardenia can save the film at all. It is absolutely one of the most putrid pieces of shit I've ever seen.
Do they reference Star Wars during the dueling wand scene?
But, the lights are off, and the condoms light up.
Is it going...
You would think. It's really lightsabers chasing each other. and lightsabers slightly disappearing off camera. Here's the problem, though. If you have a glow-in-the-dark thing, you have to charge it first with the light. They get it out of the package, and it doesn't have any time to be in the light, so even that's a problem. But you've seen Skin Deep, Sean? Please save me.
I saw it when I was like
12 or 13.
13 years old, so I mean, I loved that
Masterpiece.
It was the funniest movie I'd ever seen. It was, there were boobs, so I mean, it was. I loved it. I've not seen it since. I bet it's a piece of shit now, but
it's on Prime, available to stream with your Prime membership. I wouldn't recommend it to a single soul.
We are having a streaming challenge next week.
Yeah, John Ritter. I mean, his if he has a simple sense of acting, he's got to provide some nuance to this character for us to like him even a little bit. He doesn't, though. There's not a single moment where I said, "Oh, well, it looks like he's coming around. At least he's treating this person correctly or something." No, he treats everyone like garbage, and the film makes him out to be a hero. It's just, I don't get to the point where I'm offended by something, but I was sitting here saying this is another boomer wet dream.
That beloved 80s misogyny.
Yeah, the poor ladies in this film, why? They're written so poorly, going after this absolute schmuck because he's handsome, good-looking, and drives a Mercedes. No.
And I mean, is John Ritter really that handsome?
I wouldn't kick him out of bed, even if he was wearing a glow-in-the-dark condom. But you know what I'm saying? In terms of, that's where I should stop. Okay. I've said that just to clarify my position on the handsomeness of men.
He's a good-looking man, but at the same time, what I always claim Tom Hanks suffers from, which isn't really fair. It's more like what Bob Saget suffers from, is he's so recognizable as the guy from Three's Company that it's hard for him to picture him in any other movie or role than whatever that Jack was. It Trapper? What was
Jack Tripper.
Tripper.
And you know what though? This character is
nothing like that, right? Or is
in Three's Company, he's living with I can't remember enough about the show to remember if he was also somebody that had a lot of girlfriends and was kind of playing.
He was more of a wholesome character on that show, if I remember right. But I don't. Again, you're talking when I was a child. I mean, that show had been out.
He wasn't trying to sleep with the roommates, but he was
pretending to be married to one of them. He's
pretending to be gay.
Okay. Well, needless to say, this film offers nothing for me. Please don't see it, please. And the last one, the reason why I left this for last, because I tried watching this. We got about 65% through and had to turn it off. This is a Vincent Ward film, and if you're aware of Vincent Ward, he holds a special place in my heart because he is the originator of Alien 3. His original script, which is well known in the alien community at least, is a very interesting science fiction idea with this wooden planet and no Ripley and monks and weird stuff that's very visually interesting to look at. His original script has been made into a comic recently, and I'm interested to get a hold of that. However, he's also the guy that wrote and directed What Dreams May Come, etc., etc.
Directed it, didn't write it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's right, because he adapted it because Richard Matheson was the novelist in that case. But so you get an idea of what he's into, at least with that. I start watching this movie called The Navigator, Medieval Odyssey, because I saw that he was behind it, and it involved time travel. And I said, how have I never heard of this movie? Okay, there's a reason why.
I'm amazed you've heard of Vincent Ward. He's literally only done What Dreams May Come in Alien 3. And this.
His Alien 3 script is considered possibly a fail, but a big swing. You know how I love those kind of people. And What Dreams May Come, I'm actually kind of into that movie. So he's got some interesting ideas. Now, this is set in Scotland in 1342 or something like that. And this community of people, it's the oddest direction you'll ever see. It's in black and white. There's a lot of close-ups. It looks more like a sitcom than it does an actual theatrical film. There's no recognizable actors of any kind here, okay? and they discover this large hole, and they wonder what's in that hole. And if they go through it, because they're flat earthers, because they live in 1342, then they'll come out on the other side of the earth and escape the Black Death. Okay? That sounds like a fine idea, actually, right? For people that aren't very bright and don't know about the world because Galileo hasn't helped them yet. They do go through this tunnel, this hole or whatever, and they end up in the 20th century. Now, okay, I'm on board at this point because I'm like, the film's been really stupid and weird up to this point, but maybe they've got something here. Unfortunately, all it is like a bunch of...
It's like backwards Bill and Ted.
If it had done that, at least gone in a particular direction, then it would have been cool. But the film tries hard to take it seriously. Like, they need to do this thing to stop the plague from happening, and then they can return. They're too stuck in the dogma of the time travelers as opposed to the fish out of water idea or the science behind this entire tunnel that's going to get them on the other side of the earth.
Wait. So this is the Smurfs version of time travel then?
Kind of sounds like it.
Yeah, okay. No,
but even that seems like they do the fish out of water thing better than this.
There's a scene in the first 10 minutes, and this is where I will end my review of it, because we couldn't finish it. I mean, it's
just unwatchable.
Really unwatchable. It doesn't even seem like a movie. You know, it's like somebody's fever dream, really. Which is, ironically, what Alien 3's script is about. It's a fever dream.
What dreams may come. It's kind of
oh my gosh, what's happening here?
Maybe he has mental illness.
We're discovering Vincent Ward. Then again, he may be dead.
He hasn't worked since then. He should not joke about this.
Okay.
He's worked since then. He does something like every 5 years.
Okay. I thought you said that was the only thing you'd ever done.
That I recognize.
Okay.
Nothing... I mean, even the Navigator movie.
There's a film before the Navigator movie that showed up, too. It was like a 1984 movie.
Vigil, yeah.
Yeah, and that has an interesting premise, too. But after seeing this, there's not a single way I'm going to go back to a movie 5 years prior to this.
He made a documentary, and last movie he made was a documentary in 2008, so it's been a while.
Yeah. But
he is alive.
A wonderful, wonderful concept and time travel movie that I wasn't even aware of. That's in the first 10 minutes. They've got this main character named Connor. He returns to the village after discovering in the city that the plague has taken hold. They start singing his name in this really odd operatic tone. So I suppose if you're really high, maybe this movie will be the best thing you've ever seen.
I mean, I don't smoke pot, but I suppose if we wanted to try it as a group,
this would be the place to start.
Then we can watch Flash Gordon when we're done.
But that's 89. What a fascinating week.
Told you it'd be half an hour.
Oh, was it really?
I have no idea. But it's been a while.
I really do try and be as succinct as possible.
I'm not blaming you. This has been enjoyable.
Yeah.
But that is our show. Next week, Captain Marvel. And guess what comes out in selected cities? The Kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not Moline and Davenport, obviously, but maybe if it does well, it'll come out in 2 weeks.
Or it could be on Amazon on Tuesday.
Also possible.
But they are doing a streaming challenge because all we have is Captain Marvel.
Right.
Marvel. I've already watched my movie, Paddleton.
Oh. I've heard about that one.
Paddleton, it's a Duplass Brothers movie.
Oh, for a moment I thought you said Paddington. And that would have been a different streaming challenge for
Ray
you.
Romano and Mark Duplass.
Oh, okay.
Hell of a movie, actually. You guys will like it. It's a comedy about terminal illness.
Which is why Bob loved
only
it.
the Duplass Brothers can do that properly. Our classic is, if we can't get together for Flash Gordon, it'll be Kings of Comedy.
The King of Comedy. Kings of Comedy is a whole different thing. That's D.L. Hughley and Bernie Mac.
And D.L. Hughley.
Let's do that, too.
It's wonderful. I love
I like
Kings of
that.
Comedy.
Steve Harvey. Yeah, the King of Comedy, Robert De Niro.
Yeah. And Jerry Lewis.
Now, is this as I understand it, it's kind of like a dark
Yeah.
film, right? Okay.
When I was looking up movies for this week's classic, Stalker movies, this actually popped up as one of the options.
Aha, with Jerry Lewis. So this will be my first Jerry Lewis experience other than telethons.
Yeah, and then 89 there's a Terry Gilliam movie, and the De Niro movie, Jackknife, and a couple other movies. I can't remember what they were.
Some of the Python crews involved with the Adventures of Baron Munchausen, of which you spoke. I'll be watching that for the first time this week as well.
We should have just done the Holy Grail. Oh well.
I could just recite it for you.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
That was one of those movies where I saw it so much I started to hate it, and then got away from it, where it came back and I liked it again.
That's definitely a style of humor, too. If you show Monty Python and somebody loves it, then you know you're going to be like, well, for me at least, I'm going to be quick friends with them because it already meets a lot of parameters. But if I talk to somebody and they really hate it and they don't even get it, then I don't think we're going to be close, you know?
I appreciate it. Like, I think I've watched it in pieces over the years. Like, I think I watched it all the way through when I was like 15, and then I haven't watched it all the way through since. I've like watched pieces of it here and there.
If inane British humor isn't your top thing, which it is for me, it might not be your style.
But I do reference the Black Knight constantly, like because that is a favorite metaphor of mine.
In watching that movie about the Scottish time travelers and whatnot, there was a character that looked exactly like the woman who was being attacked by the Knights of Ni. So,
now we used to watch. Like I've literally seen that movie probably 100 times. But we were teenagers, and it was like, okay, we could be watching Skin Deep, or we could be watching. I was like, do we got to watch this again? It was like every night we had to sleep over. It was Hot Shots and Monty Python. I started to hate both of them, and then 10 years passed. You watch them again, and you're like, these are amazing.
Yeah,
Monty Python's way better than Hot Shots.
I was always kind of more on the Blazing Saddles side of things than the Monty Python side.
I do want to thank our Patreon supporters for helping support the podcast. We'll start with our key grip level, Charlie Messing, and the Hall of Famer, Jason Bryant. Our character actors, Josh Paul, Christina Cato, and Cousin Jeff.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects level, Sarah Morell and Corey from Ivy Envy.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer, Jason Mollett.
Everybody has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
And our movie stars, Dave Severs and Uncle Jeff.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon. Or you can always do PayPal. There's a link there. You'll get a credit for that as well. Just if you want to do that. I am amazed we've lost no Patreon supporters. It'd be cool to gain more, but it is. We're very grateful to what we have. If you want merch, ihatecritics.net/ I don't know the slash, but there is a tab for podcast merch. You can get our stuff at TeePublic. If you have t-shirt ideas, we'd be willing to look into them. It does take time to design the stuff, so be patient with us, but I don't know. We're willing to try. You look like you have an idea, Sean.
Not really.
Currently, we got the Fitbit.
Glow-in-the-dark condom shirt, maybe.
Oh, shit. Dueling condoms.
God, if I was a graphic artist.
What do you do for the hilt, though? And that poses a problem.
Trying to think of how to make this work. Still trying to figure out the Cameron Diaz shoulder thing. Anyway, if you have ideas for t-shirts, let us know. We'll we'll eventually get around to trying to put something together for it.
We definitely need like an old boy moment t-shirt.
I continue to have them, or it's early onset dementia, something like that.
But how do you make that a shirt?
I think you just take our logo and you just have just the title "Old Boy Moment" over it, and he's just kind of looking confused. Or a picture of Josh.
Or like a
Just
light
a
bulb.
picture of Josh. Click.
We need to get Cousin Jeff. We need to hire him.
Yes.
I always wanted to do our logo with Sean in it. But if we did an old boy moment logo with Josh and then something with me, I don't know what it would be. Something dickish, probably.
Jeff messaged me.
We'll pay you all our Patreon money. But yeah, next week, Captain Marvel, King of Comedy. Like King of Comedy. I might watch Kings of Comedy too, just for fun.
It's really good. It's a Spike Lee joint.
I like it. I miss Bernie Mac.
Me too.
What else am I forgetting? Oh, subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can subscribe. Do that, rate and review the show. Help us grow the show. Tell your friends. Otherwise, we will see you next week.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best three friends that anybody could have. I mean the three best friends that anybody could have. That's right, the three best friends.
Star Trek Into the Darkness, The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
I agree. Interstellar, Contagion.
The Contagion, that's the...
It's 2010.
Kate Winslet, Jude Law.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that one. I actually liked that one a lot. I only middling enjoyed Interstellar.
Is Contagion a Soderbergh movie?
I think so, yeah.
I will take Interstellar, obviously, but I did also like Contagion.
I will hit refresh because I've seen Contagion and I hate Interstellar. So. Attack of the Clones, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World.
Master and Commander.
Master and Commander.
Agreed. Eastern Promises, Tron, 1982.
Eastern Promises.
Eastern Promises.
Highly underrated flick.
Yes. Scream, 96. The Parent Trap, 98.
Scream.
I'd like to see those movies combined. Hope. 2007, North by Northwest.
You say Hope?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, either.
Odds are North by Northwest wins. Or I'll just refresh it. North by Northwest for Psycho, 1960.
Ooh, here we go. Psycho.
I agree.
God, I have no fucking idea. I might go North by Northwest just for some fun.
It's close. I mean, it's extremely close. I don't know how. It was like very impossible to decide, but
I think my reasoning
I would watch
is,
Psycho first.
Probably. I think my reasoning is more... I was more caught off guard, I guess, by North by Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Psycho, I knew what it was going in.
Future segment. Instead of Hitchcock Fights. Because it's... Cockfights. Hitchcock.
That's almost the name of the podcast. I mean, nothing else is really relevant. Why not? It's the only time I can put cockfights in the title and not get kicked off.
If you think about it, we already talked about cockfighting with Skin Deep, so it really works.
All right, that's what the title is. Little Shop of Horrors, Serenity.
Serenity. Yeah.
Kill Bill Volume 2, Road to Perdition.
Kill Bill.
Tangled, Planet Terror.
Tangled.
Blue Streak, The Royal Tenenbaums.
Blue Streak.
I will go with The Royal Tenenbaums. It's the one Wes Anderson movie I do like a lot. That was Corey's other point with Magnolia. Goes, Wes Anderson movies are way more pretentious than Magnolia. I'm like, I don't know about that. More hipstery, sure. But speaking of, I have this... My wife bought this IPA beer that says hipster repellent, which I think is a total oxymoron. Isn't that what hipsters are into?
That's funny.
I thought Bud Light was hipster repellent.
Right. Yeah. RoboCop 87, Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents.
$1 Million Baby, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Ooh, that's tough. That is so tough.
Is it?
Is it? It really is. Like, Chamber of Secrets is a hell of a movie. I actually got to go with that.
Really?
Honestly.
I'll go with $1 Million Baby mainly because Harry Potter, to me, it's all like pretty much one large film. And if I were to pick one out for being unique, it would be Azkaban, or my favorite is Goblet of Fire. So I'll go with $1 Million Baby.
As well, Daybreakers. I don't think I've seen that one. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Daybreakers. I know what it is, but you can go ahead and just blow it out.
Yeah, that's an Ethan Hawke vampire movie or something?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen it, though. Live Free or Die Hard, Close Encounters.
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters.
Ghostbusters, Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Ghostbusters.
It's Ghostbusters, but someday we need to make Eyes Wide Shut classic so I can change my mind. Jumper, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Obviously.
Jumper sucks so much.
Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Full Monty.
I don't know. I don't really care either way. Full Monty.
I'll go with Full Monty too, but I don't care much.
I'm with you guys. Broken Arrow or the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Broken Arrow.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'll go Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There's... I know that it's bad.
Broken Arrow
Sacrilege.
Sucks.
It does.
A remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is sacrilege.
It's totally unnecessary, but...
Yes. But Broken Arrow is awful. Stir of Echoes, Big Daddy.
Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes.
There was a point where I liked that better than Sixth Sense. Eventually, I came to 2 and realized I was wrong.
I understand. Well, yeah. That's an interesting director.
Though, yeah.
It's David Koepp, I think.
I think so. And Kevin Bacon's really good in that movie.
I also watched it in an empty theater, so it made it extra scary.
That fingernail breaking scene gets me every time. Ugh.
Dick Tracy, Addams Family Values.
Dick Tracy.
Yeah, I'll take Dick Tracy over Bad Hammer songs.
I'm just taking it to move on. Lethal Weapon 4, The Grudge.
Lethal Weapon 4.
Lethal Weapon 4.
I hate The Grudge.
Yeah.
Unbreakable, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 74.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Agreed.
Especially after seeing the newest movie. It's not even close. Pay It Forward or Shrek 2.
Shrek 2. Fuck, Pay It Forward so much.
Bon Jovi's in it.
I don't care.
The very contrived ending.
I wanted to like that movie.
It's a piece of crap
I tried
all the way.
so hard to like because of American Beauty, largely.
And that was his first film after American
Right,
Beauty.
and it was just like, I can't.
What a piece of shit.
Did you pick one, Josh?
Not Pay It Forward.
Not Pay It Forward. Cool, exclamation point, 2004, or Flight Plan?
I don't remember Cool.
I don't either. I don't remember Flight Plan for that matter.
Jodie Foster.
Well, I know she's in it, but I don't know that I saw it. I'm assuming Josh did.
Yeah.
I did.
Couples Retreat or Flight Plan?
Oh.
You guys are going to split on this.
We've kept it this long. We can both use it.
I'll just refresh.
There you
How about
go.
that?
That's a good idea.
$1 Million Baby, Shark Tale.
$1 Million Baby.
Agreed.
Grease, Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Rush Hour 3, Miss Congeniality.
Miss Congeniality.
I'll go with Rush Hour 3 on this one.
I'll go with Miss Congeniality. Changing Lanes, Me, Myself, and Irene.
Changing Lanes.
Happy Gilmore, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Agreed.
That's where we're ending it. Cloud Atlas, Eyes Wide Shut. Oh, Jesus Christ.